Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I used to believe that after 10 years of marriage, you could read your partner like an open book, that you'd know every habit, every secret smile, every change in their tone. I was wrong. My name is Ethan, and for a long time I thought my wife, Claire, was the kind of woman people only dream of marrying, gentle, supportive, and loyal to the core. But life has a way of shattering even the strongest illusions when you least expect it. Our story started like any other love story. We met in college, two dreamers with more ambition than money. She was studying design, and I was working part-time while pursuing engineering. Claire had this warmth about her, a kind of light that made everyone around her feel noticed. I fell for her laughter first, then for the way she listened. When we married, I believed we were building a forever kind of love, the kind that grows deeper through storms, not weaker. For years, we built a simple, happy life. We bought a small house, painted the walls ourselves, and adopted a golden retriever named Max. I worked long hours to support us, and she started a home-based design business that slowly became successful. We didn't have kids, though it wasn't for lack of trying. There were a few quiet nights when she cried softly in bed, whispering that she felt like she was failing me. I'd hold her and say, "We have time." I truly believe that. But time can be cruel. It hides things. It stretches the distance between hearts until you wake up one day and realize you're sleeping next to a stranger. It began with small things you wouldn't notice unless you look closely. Claire started spending more time out of the house meeting clients. She'd come home late, exhausted but oddly detached. Her phone, which used to lie openly on the table, suddenly became her most guarded possession. She changed her passcode one day and brushed it off with, "I read somewhere that it's safer that way." I didn't question her, but something inside me shifted. A tiny flicker of unease that refused to go out. Then there were the weekends. She used to love lazy Sundays, coffee in bed, a movie, laughter echoing through the house. But slowly those moments faded. Instead, she'd say she needed time to clear her head, taking solo drives to the countryside. I wanted to trust her, but that faint, sick feeling of doubt kept whispering, "Something's wrong." One Friday night, she came home later than usual. I remember it vividly. The clock struck midnight, and I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV. When she finally walked in, she smelled of perfume that wasn't hers, a scent I couldn't place. She noticed me staring and gave me that practiced smile. "Long day," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. The client meeting ran late. I wanted to believe her. I nodded, forced a smile, and said nothing. But that night, as she slept, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering when our simple life had turned into a puzzle full of missing pieces. Weeks passed, and her distance grew. She'd sit next to me on the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely responding to my attempts at conversation. When I'd reach for her hand, she'd pull away gently, saying she was tired. I started second-guessing everything, my own worth, my role as her husband, even my sanity. Then one morning, I received an anonymous message on my work email. It was short, only 6 words. "Your wife isn't who you think." No sender name. No attachments. Just that. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I wanted to ignore it, tell myself it was some sick prank. But curiosity and fear began eating away at me. That night, when Claire said she was meeting a new client, I decided to follow her. I trailed her car at a safe distance through dimly lit streets until she pulled into a small cafe on the edge of town. She got out, checked her reflection in the mirror, and smiled, the same warm, radiant smile I once thought belonged only to me. Then a man walked in, tall, confident, with a familiar ease in the way he approached her. She stood up, and before I could process what was happening, they hugged, not a polite, quick hug, but one that lingered, filled with quiet affection. I felt my chest tighten, and the air seemed to vanish from my lungs. For the next hour, I sat in my car, watching as they talked, laughed, and touched hands across the table. I didn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. The truth was written in their body language, the intimacy, The comfort, the connection. When she finally left and drove home, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I was too numb. The following days were a blur. I kept replaying that night over and over, searching for an explanation that didn't make me feel like a fool. Maybe it was a client. Maybe it was just friendship. Maybe. But deep down, I already knew. One night, after she fell asleep, I went through her phone. I hated myself for it, but I had to know. Her messages were clean, too clean. Then I found a hidden folder in her gallery, a locked album. When I managed to open it using a password she once used for her design files, my heart shattered. There were photos of her and that same man, dinners, beach trips, even hotel rooms, smiling, laughing, holding each other like I didn't exist. That moment will never leave me. My hands shook so violently I dropped the phone. My throat went dry, and I could barely breathe. I sat there in the dark, the glow of the screen illuminating the cracks in my world. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same. She greeted me with a cheerful good morning, pretending everything was fine, while I stared at her wondering how long she'd been living this double life. One where I was a husband who paid the bills, while someone else got the smiles, the laughter, the love. I didn't confront her immediately. I wanted to understand why. Why destroy something we spent years building? Why lie so effortlessly? I started watching her more closely, studying her patterns, the calls she took in private, the sudden weekend business trips, the emotional distance she tried to disguise with fake enthusiasm. Every discovery felt like another knife to the chest. The worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was a realization that she was living two lives. One with me, full of routine and silence, and another where she was free, vibrant, alive. I had been sleeping beside a stranger who wore my wife's face. I finally decided to confront her one evening. She was cooking dinner when I walked in, my mind heavy with everything I had uncovered. My voice was steady but cold. "Claire," I said, "who's the man from the cafe?" The way she froze told me everything. The spoon slipped from her hand, clattering against the floor. Her face went pale, and for a long moment she said nothing. "Ethan," she whispered finally, her voice trembling. "Please, it's not what you think." But it was. I showed her the photos. Her knees buckled, and she started crying, those deep, uncontrollable sobs that sound more like guilt than sorrow. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just stood there, broken, as the woman I loved tried to explain the unexplainable. She said it just happened, that she felt lost, that I had become distant because of work. Every excuse felt like another wound. I wanted to believe she was sorry, but the lies were too deep, too rehearsed. That night, I slept on the couch, staring into the darkness, realizing that everything I thought I knew about my marriage was gone. I didn't know what hurt more, her betrayal, or the fact that I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was once a man who believed in love, in loyalty, in partnership. Now, I was just a hollow shell, sitting in the ruins of a life built on trust that never truly existed. And as I lay there, the weight of the truth pressing against my chest, one thought echoed in my mind, cold and relentless. If she could hide this for so long, what else has she been lying about? The morning after our confrontation, the house felt emptier than ever. It was strange, the same walls, same furniture, same scent of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Yet everything felt poisoned by lies. Claire tried to talk to me, but I couldn't bear to hear her voice. Every word that came out of her mouth sounded hollow, rehearsed, as if she were still trying to act like the woman I used to love. For 3 days, I avoided her. I left for work early, came home late, and slept in the guest room. Max, our dog, kept pacing between us like he could feel the fracture spreading through our home. Sometimes he'd curl up beside me on the couch, as if trying to comfort me in ways words never could. But silence can't hold back the truth forever. On the 4th night, Claire knocked softly on my door. Her voice was shaky. "Ethan, please. Can we talk? You deserve to know everything." Part of me didn't want to hear it. I had already seen enough. But another part, the one still clinging to the ghost of our marriage, nodded. I motioned for her to sit. She sat across from me, her hands trembling in her lap. "His name is Adam," she began. "We met 2 years ago. He was a client at first. 2 years. My stomach twisted. She hadn't just made a mistake. She had built another life, piece by piece, while I was busy trying to make ours better. I didn't plan for it to happen, she continued, her eyes filling with tears. He made me feel seen again. You were always busy, always tired. I thought you didn't need me anymore. Her words felt like acid. So instead of telling me, you built a second life behind my back? I asked quietly. She nodded, crying harder. I know I destroyed everything. But I didn't mean to fall in love with him. It just... Stop, I said, my voice breaking. Don't fall into love while you're married. You choose it. Every day, you make a choice to stay, to communicate, to fight for what you promised. And you chose him. For a long time, the only sound was the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I watched her cry, but I couldn't feel pity anymore. My heart felt numb, as if the pain had burned through everything human left inside me. Finally, I said, if you're in love with him, then go. Don't stay here out of guilt. She looked up, startled. What? No, Ethan, I ended it. I swear, I realized what I was doing was wrong. That's why I've been so distant. I was trying to fix us. Her words sounded desperate, but all I could think about were those pictures, those smiles, the nights she said she was working late. I didn't know which was worse, her betrayal or her lies about trying to fix things while she was still seeing him. I stood up, too tired to argue. Claire, I can't live with this. Not anymore. The next few days blurred together. I filed for separation quietly, unable to even explain it to my family. I didn't want to hear anyone say, I told you so, or you'll find someone better. I didn't want better. I wanted back the life I thought I had, the version of Claire who never existed. When she found the papers on the counter, she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Please, Ethan, don't do this. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll do anything. But it was too late. You can rebuild a broken house, but not a burned foundation. Trust is like glass. Once shattered, you can try to piece it back together, but the cracks never disappear. I moved out 2 weeks later. The night I left, Max whined as I packed my bags. Claire tried to hand me his leash. He loves you more, she whispered. I shook my head. He's better off here. He needs both of us. But as I closed the door behind me, I knew I'd never come back. For the next few months, I tried to live normally. Work became my refuge. I buried myself in deadlines and meetings, pretending I was fine, but the nights were unbearable. I'd come home to a silent apartment, eat takeout alone, and stare at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong. People say time heals everything, but they never talk about how slowly it moves when your heart is broken. Then, one day, I receive another anonymous message, the same sender as before. This time it said, "You deserve to know the full truth." Attached was a folder of screenshots and photos. More than I ever want to see. Messages between Claire and Adam for months after she claimed to have ended things. Conversations about weekend getaways, private jokes, even a discussion about what if he finds out. I sat there for hours, reading, my hands trembling. It wasn't over when she said it was. She had lied again, even after being caught. That last sliver of hope I was holding on to, that maybe she regretted it, that maybe she wanted to fix things, vanished completely. That night, I called her for the last time. "Claire," I said quietly, "I got your truth." There was silence on the other end, then a faint, broken whisper. "I'm sorry." "You already said that," I replied. But sorry doesn't undo a double life. It just names it. I hung up before she could answer. And for the first time since everything began, I didn't cry. I just sat in the dark, calm and empty. Months passed. The divorce went through. Claire kept the house. I didn't fight for it. It wasn't a home anymore. She reached out a few times, trying to talk, but I ignored her messages. Some wounds don't need conversation. They just need distance. One afternoon, as I packed up old things from storage, I found a box of our wedding photos. There we were, two people smiling under the sunlight, holding hands, full of promises. I stared at that version of us, the one frozen in time, and felt both sadness and relief. Sadness because I missed what I thought we had. Relief because the truth, no matter how painful, had freed me from a lie I didn't even know I was living. That night, I went for a long drive, no destination in mind. The city lights blurred through the windshield, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a strange kind of peace. The pain was still there, but it wasn't drowning me anymore. It was simply part of me, a scar, not a wound. A year later, I heard from a mutual friend that Claire had moved to another city. She closed her business, sold a house, and apparently ended things with Adam for good. She's different now, my friend said, quieter, regretful. I nodded but said nothing. I didn't hate her anymore. Hate takes energy, and I had wasted enough of that already. What I felt was something deeper, an acceptance that people change, sometimes in ways you can't follow. I've learned that betrayal doesn't just destroy relationships. It reshapes you. It strips you of illusions, forces you to see yourself clearly. I wasn't perfect either. I had buried myself in work, assuming love could survive on autopilot. Maybe that's how cracks began to form. But nothing could ever justify what she did. Still, I forgave her, not for her sake, but for mine. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about refusing to carry it forever. Sometimes I wonder what she tells herself when she looks back. Does she think of me as the man she wronged, or as the one who once loved her enough to let her go? I'll never know, and maybe that's for the best. The last time I saw her was unexpected. It was at a grocery store a few towns over. She was standing in an aisle, staring at a shelf of coffee jars, looking tired and smaller somehow. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the years fell away. She gave me a faint, sad smile, the kind that says everything words can't. I nodded, returned a polite smile, then walked past her without a word. It wasn't anger that made me keep walking. It was peace. I had already said my goodbyes a long time ago. The night I realized the woman I loved never truly existed the way I believed she did. When people hear my story now, they often ask, "Do you still believe in love after what happened?" I always pause before answering. The truth is, yes, I do, but not in the way I used to. I no longer believe love is blind or perfect. Real love, I've learned, isn't about grand gestures or fairy tale endings. It's about honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about choosing to stay when things get hard, not escaping into a fantasy when reality feels dull. If I ever fall in love again, I'll do it differently, slower, wiser, with eyes open. I'll listen more, notice more, and never assume silence means peace, because silence can hide storms. Sometimes, late at night, I still dream of her, of us, sitting on the porch with Max, laughing about nothing. In those dreams, we're still happy, untouched by secrets. But when I wake up, I don't feel the same sharp pain anymore. I just feel grateful that I once knew what love could be, even if it didn't last. Life goes on. It always does. The scars remain, but they remind me that I survived something that once felt unbearable. And maybe that's a strange gift of betrayal. It breaks you, yes, but also rebuilds you into someone stronger, someone who finally understands that peace doesn't come from someone else's loyalty. It comes from your own strength to walk away and never look back.